Hey there, adventurers, and welcome back to another episode of the Awkward Dungeon Master. This week, we are going to be talking about critical failure and critical success. So, this is the video that I mentioned that popped up in one of the local Dungeons & Dragons Facebook groups that turned out to be a little bit controversial. So, first off, I want to read you guys the original post, which is a little bit sassy, so bear with me. Got it on my phone. I don't know who needs to hear this today, but critical success only applies to attack rolls and death saving throws. To the best of my understanding, that is actually true. I did write down the page from the Player's Handbook that has the section on critical success. Well, critical hits, rather. So under the damage and healing section, it's page 196, chapter on combat. There is a section about critical hits. And what it says is, when you score a critical hit, you get to roll extra dice for the attack's damage against the target. Roll all of the attack's damage dice twice and add them together. Then add any relevant modifiers as normal. I couldn't find anything else in the book other than death saving throws, which we'll get to in a moment, about critical success and critical failure. So as far as I know, it only applies to damage and death saving throws. It's mostly only relevant in combat. If you guys know of anything else out there that this applies to that's actually published content, please throw that down in the comments, because I always want to learn new stuff, and I'm guessing other people do too. And obviously, I am not the end-all be-all of everything Dungeons & Dragons. I am simply here to give you my take on the subject. So, moving forward. I also marked another page, which was in the Dungeon Master's Guide about this. Page 248, according to my notes. Hello. Monsters and critical hits. Monsters follow the same rules for critical hits as a player. That's fine. I know some people who kind of do critical damage this way. There's one Dungeon Master I know of that does it the same way for players is what it says here, which is to roll the dice associated with the damage and then add it to the average. I think he actually does the maximum so that you're guaranteed to have a lot more damage. It's not like you can roll 2 dice and get 2 ones and be like, well, fuck, I could have rolled more than that on a normal hit. So screw me. Those were the only relevant things I could find on criticals. Using the indexes in both of these books. There wasn't a whole lot in there. I know there's a lot of stuff online about it only being for those 2 things, for critical hits in combat. Now, I will say this. There is nothing in the book about critical failures in combat, and I know a lot of people that will do stuff for that. I don't have anything specifically that I do in my games at home for critical failures. When I have critical successes, I will let my players kind of describe what it is that they're doing, since it's their kind of awesome hit. I'm a weirdo, I don't know how to talk today, it's fine. But when there's critical failures, I don't always do something. And I do have a reason for that. I think when somebody rolls a natural 1, and you always punish them for it, your players kind of learn to dread that, almost to a detrimental point. So for me, I only like to apply negatives when I feel like it's relevant or it adds to the story. If there's a really difficult situation set up where somebody's like, well, I want to run over here and then jump down onto this rock, and then I want to take this pop shot at the guy over there, and that guy is standing right next to your friend who is engaged in melee combat with them, or they're grappling them or something like that, where they're in really close quarters and you're doing all this crazy stuff. During your turn, I may say, if you roll a natural 1, you hit your buddy instead of the other guy. But there has to be something going on in the combat that makes that make sense, if that makes sense to everybody else. It has to be relevant, functional, and yeah, it needs to kind of add to what's going on. I don't like to willy-nilly always ascribe negatives to that. With that, I do have to be careful that I'm not always doing it to the same people, because I have the same people who always like to consistently do kind of crazy stuff in combat. So I'm making sure that I'm not constantly also just doing bad stuff to them, but that it occasionally happens to other people too, is difficult. But I don't like consistently doing bad things for natural ones. it takes all of the surprise out of it, in my opinion, if something bad always happens on a natural one. Natural 20s, on the other hand, there is a precedent for that in the book with the double the dice damage. And I give my players a choice. I say they can roll double the dice or they can roll the set dice and then double the amount that they roll. They do have to declare that in my games before they roll the damage, though. And with that, saying I do occasionally do bad things for natural 1s, I do occasionally add extra things for my natural 20s as well. So I had a time where one of the girls, they were relatively low level, but one of the girls in my home game rolled a natural 20. I think it was her first campaign still, but I think we've been playing for a good 8 months to a year already. And she rolled a natural 20 on a little kobold, and then she maxed out the damage on a magical weapon. So I told her that she kind of shish kebabbed a couple kobolds to the wall and took them all out, which was really fun and interesting, and I know she still remembers that. She tells that story to other people who have nothing to do with our games to this day. So, I regret nothing. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys for critical successes and critical failures being only relative in combat. Like I said before, if you can think of some other occasion other than death saving throws where that applies, please let me know down in comments. Death saving throws. So, when you're rolling for death saving throws, if you roll a natural 20, this is in the book. Player's Handbook, same page. So on page 197 of the Player's Handbook, there is a section on death saving throws to the far right, and it talks about rolling a 1 or a 20. When you make a death saving throw and roll a natural 1 on the d20, it counts as 2 failures. If you roll a natural 20 on the d20, you regain 1 hit point, which means you are stabilized at 1 hit point. You no longer have to roll death saving throws. You are awake, and good freaking luck, because if you were rolling death saving throws, you were pretty well fucked to begin with. So, get creative and get yourself out of that situation, which I have seen people do, and it's pretty fucking amazing. Critical success and critical failure, only relevant when doing combat attacks and during death saving throws. Please, dear God, if you find something else about criticals, throw it down in the comments. I heard some crazy shit on that thread, theories about why people do the critical failures and critical successes. But the best one I heard was actually from somebody who I've played in their games before, and he said he doesn't like to do critical successes on skill checks because it greatly improves the odds of characters being able to succeed at things that they should not be able to, and kind of takes away the GM's ability to control some of the more narrative aspects of the game. And I honestly feel like that is a valid point. I'm trying to think if there was anyone else who had any poignant thoughts to add other than, you're a jerk and you're totally wrong, because there was a lot of that going on in comments, because, you know, anything on the internet these days can become a massive garbage fire if given the right environment. I think that is all I have for you guys on critical success and critical failure for this week. If you have anything to add, or if I missed anything, please throw that down in the comments below. And until next time, keep it rolling, adventurers.